Houston, this is Station. I am ready for the event.
ESA PAO, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is ESA PAO. How can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. How are you, Jules?
We hear you loud and clear. It's great to see you, Sophie. And I give the word immediately to Niamh Shaw from the Irish Time.
Hello, Sophie. Waving from Ireland.
Hi, everyone.
So back in 2022, when ESA announced class, a lot of us saw a dream realised. So now, 3 years later, you're the first of that class, now completing a full 6-month mission, living on board the ISS. So, Sophie, what has surprised you the most about the reality of becoming an astronaut, personally and professionally? Thank you.
You know, it's really a challenge to answer this question because everything when you become an astronaut is mind-blowing. Personal and professional life are just upside down. Everything you learned before is useful, but everything changes. That said, I would say that in the past 3 years, I've trained a lot for all of the emergencies. And so we were ready, and astronauts are ready to handle any kind of emergencies. But when we arrive, literally, everything goes smoothly. And so in the end, daily life here is going very well. All the hardware is very reliable. We don't have emergencies every day, but we are very well trained for that. And this is a huge difference between training and the real life in here.
And now the word goes to Martha Melly in French.
Bonjour Sophie, vous avez pas...
You took part in the first space-to-space call with the crew of Artemis II mission. What did you feel then when you spoke to them? How did you follow the various stages of their journey around the moon and their return from the ISS?
Merci pour cette question. Pour nous, c'était
Thank you very much for this question. That was really a huge event to be able to speak to the Artemis II mission team, to imagine that they were actually lifting off, to feel the emotions that all of you probably shared as well when you saw the liftoff, and then actually talking to them. It was almost unreal. We were all covered in goosebumps, and I think we discussed it afterwards, and we all felt that it was absolutely amazing that we had two teams who were both in space talking to each other, one who journeyed around the moon. There was a lot of emotion. It was very cheerful and joyful for us. It was a big moment for all of us.
And we go back to Christoph Seidler.
Sophie, good to talk to you. Your hair always looks spectacular. And I have a very hands-on question. Is long hair in space practical? Is it annoying? Is it dangerous at times? Where do the hairs end up that fall out? And do you get to wash? Thank you.
Thank you for your very day-to-day question. I love this question. Of course, I had a lot of the same question before coming here. But the answer is kind of easy and was surprising at the beginning, actually. So the hair is not falling. Hair needs a force to fall. So I brush it twice a day, and all of the hair is falling on my hairbrush. and not in station. It's very interesting. It's very different as in gravity environment, because on Earth, of course, they are falling. But in here, it is very different. And there have been decades of women with long hair in space, and so far, no problem. So yeah, it's not a safety problem for sure. On a day-to-day basis, I attach them together. It's more convenient. But yeah, for sharing my experiences to everyone, I like to have them a bit wild like this. It's a lot of fun too.
La parole maintenant à Sébastien Loff-Lecoq de Énergie.
Floor to Sebastian Loff-Lecoq from NRJ. Hello, as Thomas Pesquet, I would like to know, how can you actually inspire young people about protecting the planet, the environment, and Spain? As you are only the second French woman to go into the ISS, what is your special message for young girls who would dream to become scientists, engineers, pilots, or astronauts in the future?
Merci pour cette question qui me touche beaucoup parce qu'en fait,
Thank
je suis
you.
passée par là par
That's
celle
a
qui écoutait
very
les
special
interviews à la
question for
radio,
me.
à la télévision,
I
les articles de
obviously
journaux et même
used
les
to
couper.
listen
Donc,
to
je suis
all the
arrivée là parce qu'on m'a
interviews
passé
and
le
I
témoin de
would
cette
cut
passion
out
pour la science et
articles
pour
from
un
the
métier
newspaper. I
d'aventure
had this
scientifique
passion
finalement, et
which
je
was
suis ravie
actually
d'essayer de le passer
fueled
aussi à
with all
Pour moi,
these
c'est
different
important que si des
interviews
jeunes
and
veulent
articles.
rejoindre
And
cette
it's very
aventure
important for me to
scientifique,
share that
fille ou garçon, quelle que
excitement
soit
and
l'origine
emotion.
sociale,
Young
familiale,
children,
etc. Il
whoever
y a de
they
la
may
place pour tout le
be,
monde en
boys,
fait.
girls, from whatever sort
Et
of
si c'est
background,
le rêve
there's
de
room for
chacun, alors
everybody here, and it's
allez-y,
everybody's
ne vous mettez
dream.
pas de
And if
limites.
it is your
C'est
dream,
important
you should really
de
go
savoir
for
que
it. There
vous
should be
aurez
no
toute votre
limits,
place,
no
et vous
holding
pourrez
back.
contribuer,
You
vous
will
pourrez
be able
avoir
to
une
do
vie
it.
très
You will be
prenante
able to
et très
contribute and
amusante à
have a
faire des
very
rencontres
exciting and
internationales et à travailler sur des
fabulous
sujets
life,
passionnants.
exciting and
Vous
fun.
travaillerez
You'll be
sans
able
doute
to
avec
work
des
on
équipes qui elles-mêmes
wonderful
seront
projects
passionnées
and
aussi.
work with other
Et peut-être
teams
qu'un jour,
who are
j'aurai la chance de
equally
travailler avec vous,
enthusiastic as you.
ça,
And
ce
perhaps
serait
I
chouette parce
might
que
be
si
lucky
jamais
enough to be
j'arrive à
able to work
inspirer
with
quelqu'un
one
qui
of
plus
you
tard,
in
quelques
the
années plus
future,
tard, me
because
dit,
if I could actually inspire someone who
aujourd'hui
a
je
few
travaille
years
avec
later
toi,
will
tu m'as
say to me,
inspiré,
look, I'm
finalement,
working with you, but you are my
le
source of
relais, le témoin
inspiration
se
all
passe
those
de
years ago,
génération en
I'd be
génération comme
thrilled
ça.
because that would
Et je
show
serais
that there's
ravie
a
de pouvoir
connection
essayer
from
d'insuffler un
generation to
petit peu des
generation.
étoiles dans
And
les
I'd
yeux
be delighted to
aux
be
enfants
able to
qui en
shed
ont envie ou besoin.
that sort of excitement and share it with others.
Et on continue en français avec Martin.
Another question in French from Martin Leduc.
Bonjour Sophie, merci de
Hi
prendre du
Sophie,
temps pour nous.
thank you for
Ma
setting
question est la
aside some time
suivante.
for us.
Depuis que
So
vous êtes
this
dans
is my
l'ISS,
question.
quelle
Since
est
you've
la
been on the
compétence la
ISS,
plus
what is the most
improbable apprise pendant votre
improbable,
entraînement qui
unlikely skill
finalement
that you have learned
vous a
during your
servi?
training that ultimately did come in use?
Merci de cette question. En fait,
Thanks for
ce qui est
this
assez amusant,
question.
c'est que les
Well,
compétences
what's
les plus
quite amusing
improbables
is that
sont
the
celles qu'on
most
aimerait qu'ils ne servent
unlikely
jamais finalement.
skills, the
Notamment
ones
dans le
that
domaine des
actually
urgences
you don't
médicales.
necessarily use,
Pour ma part,
particularly medical
la chose la plus
emergencies.
improbable que j'ai apprise à
I
faire
think
pendant cet
the
entraînement,
most
c'est apprendre
unlikely
à
thing that I
arracher une
learned
dent. Donc autant dire que
was
j'espère ne
to
pas
learn,
m'en
for
servir.
example, how to take
Ça,
out a
c'est
tooth
voilà, on est
and
tous
do
parés
some
à l'imprévu
basic
et on l'a
dental
vu
work.
avec le retour
So we're all
anticipé de
ready
l'équipage
for
Crew 11,
unexpected
l'équipage
events
11.
with Crew 11.
Qui vaut mieux
We
être préparé
are
à l'imprévu.
ready and prepared for
Ceci
the
étant dit,
unexpected, and obviously that is
voilà,
very
ça c'est pour
important.
les parties des
So
compétences qu'on espère
that
ne
is the
pas
sort of
avoir à
skills
utiliser.
that
En
we
revanche,
have, but we
ce
hope
qu'on
that we
apprend et
don't ever have to
voilà,
use.
ce qui est le
But
quotidien
also
d'un
what we do
entraînement,
learn
c'est qu'il faut
on our
savoir s'adapter
everyday
en permanence.
training basis
S'adapter
is that
et
we
avec
have
le
to learn
sourire,
to be
même
flexible,
si ça impacte
adapt
parfois la
to
vie
whatever
personnelle
happens
ou l'agenda qu'on avait
with a big
imaginé.
smile, carefully, because
Aujourd'hui,
even
on a
if
eu la
that has
chance
an
dans l'équipage
impact
de pas
on your
avoir de
agenda, on
grosses
your
pannes.
day, you've
La
got
panne
to
la plus
actually just get on with
la
it.
plus ennuyeuse
And
qu'on
we've
a eue,
been
c'est la
lucky
panne des
so far.
toilettes qui
We've
était
not
réglée
actually
en une
had any
demi-journée de
problems. The only
maintenance.
problem we had
Mais
was
c'est vrai
the
que
problems
vu
with
que
the
le rythme
toilets,
est
but that was
opérationnel
sorted
ici,
really quickly. And
en
we
fait,
can say that since we started operations here,
quand
we've
il y a
been
une journée qui est prévue avec
lucky.
une panne
And when
qui
you have a
surgit,
day
eh bien, il
which
faut
is
prêt à switcher de suite
where there is
sur autre chose.
some sort of incident,
tout
you've
se
got to
passe très
learn
bien
to
à bord, je vous
quickly
rassure.
deal with it and switch to that. But you learn that and everything's going fine.
Bonjour Sophie, Sylvain Rousseau pour France
Hi,
24.
I'm Sylvie Rousseau
Vous faites aussi beaucoup
for France 24. I'd like to say that you're actually carrying out quite a lot of scientific experiments. Some of them are French. Does that mean something to you, something special as being the ambassador for French science in space?
Alors effectivement, oui, c'est à la fois un honneur et une grande joie.
It's a great honor and it's a great joy for me, but also a huge responsibility. I feel as if I am following in the footsteps of hundreds of other French scientists who have done their utmost to put French science in the forefront. And for me, to be able to share that passion that I have for science and work on these sort of scientific experiments is exciting. And I want to say to the young today that there's still so much to do. There's just something here that I'd like to show you. Jessica and Chris are working on an experiment for cancer. And the sort of studies we are carrying out for cancer studies will be used actually in practical ways. It will have a practical impact. So I'd like to say to all the young who are watching or who may be following this, it's exciting. There's a lot to do. There's a lot more to learn and a lot more to study. So I'd like to say to all the young people, go for it, study, and I'd be really delighted to work with as many as possible in the future. And as a French person, I'm really delighted to be part of the scientific community. Hi, Sophie. I'm Christine Chapelle for TFN and SGI. Most of the astronauts who've been fortunate enough to go to space, whether they are astronauts or tourists, have a completely different view of our Earth, of our planet afterwards. Have things changed for you, seeing Earth from afar?
Alors écoutez, sans aucun doute, j'ai été
well, yes, absolutely. I was as marked as all previous and present astronauts who have seen the Earth from space. And I would also like to say that this really is one of the top 3 events that have changed my view of life, of our planet, of Earth. But to talk about this particular scientific experiment, obviously there is a pre and post moment. And apart from the emotions that I've talked about several times before, the excitement, the joy of seeing our planet, Earth, but it's also the sort of perspective that it gives you. When you look at our Earth in this way, you can see that everything is united. In fact, geography, the continents, countries, when you're on Earth, you feel that there are fixed borders. But in fact, when you're here and you see what our planet Earth looks like, you can see that everything's connected. The sea, the sky, the clouds, the countries, everything. And so if we want to protect our planet together, we too have to be united. We have to work together and go in the same direction. That is the sort of perspective which I think is amazing. The fact that everything is connected, is unified, and I think we should, human beings, go in that way as well so that we can protect this Earth of ours.
Thank you, Sophie. We switch back to English with Sonia Bitkan from Poland.
Hello, Sonia Agata-Biszczyn, TVP World, Polish TV, and what an amazing opportunity to ask a question in this setting. Sophie, you were part of the 2022 ESA Astronaut class together with the Polish Wiśniewski. What part of your training at the European Astronaut Center or elsewhere would you say has proven to be the most useful for you on the International Space Station? And do you recall any memorable moments from training with Sławosz?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, yes, I do remember very well doing like some very tiny bits of training. I mean, not very specifically for my mission. I was busy in my training flow and he was busy too, but we had a couple meetings together. Like we were getting ready for the same space adventure, right? And launching from a rocket. And so we had a very few meetings together. That said, I would say that one thing that is very mind-blowing is international cooperation, and this is something you train for by going into different countries and understanding international cooperation. You know, when you're working all together on a project that is so huge that all of the international scientists or engineers or competencies are gathered together and work together on finding solutions and making progress for science, then you understand that you not only bring very valuable resources together, but also very different cultural backgrounds. And let me tell you a very fun anecdote about this. Because in space, it's the same. We are different nationalities working with different international teams on the ground. And so my anecdote is that it's about daily life, but we all come with little gifts to everyone for birthdays or different celebrations. And in our crew, it's a fun joke that we have. We offer socks because our uniform socks are usually black. And so we want to celebrate by offering very fun socks. But we just learned recently that in one of the country of our crew members, after offering a sock, a pair of socks, this meant not the same thing as in our culture. It means that it's like offering red roses or saying "I love you" to a person. So as a crew, we had a lot of laugh about like cultural differences, and this is something like working in different cultural environments is something you learn right away from the beginning in spaceflight, and it's a very fun experience.
We'll continue in French. Tobias Meyer.
Bonjour de Vienne.
Hello, I'm in Vienna. In the last few months, you have gained thousands of new followers on social media. What is your challenges? What are the objectives you may have being on her platforms, social media platforms, producing content from space? And how do you plan to use your growing outreach when you're back on Earth?
Merci beaucoup pour cette question. Écoutez,
Thank you
une
for
des
your
valeurs que
question.
j'ai et que j'aurai toujours, c'est rester
I think
authentique et naturel et passer
one
mon
of
ressenti, mes
the
émotions sans filtre.
main
Et je pense que ça,
assets
vous le
or
comprenez, je suis
plus
assez
points
naturelle sur
is that
toutes
I
mes
will
publications.
remain
Donc, c'est vraiment
completely
important pour moi, cette
natural and
authenticité.
ordinary in
Ce
her
qui
and
est sûr, c'est
authentic
que
in
tout
sharing
ce
my
contenu est
opinions.
fait
And I
grâce au
think you've
soutien des
understood
équipes
by now that that's the
impressionnantes.
way
On
I
a un
am.
staff
I
qui
think
est assez
that
conséquent,
we do
autant à la
have
NASA qu'à l'ESA, qui
huge
nous aide à
followers,
faire tout
and
ce
at
contenu. Mais c'est pas
NASA
moi
and
personnellement
ESA, we
qui
have
travaille
lots of
dessus.
people
Donc
who help
merci à
us
eux.
with
J'en
content.
profite pour
I'm not
leur dire un grand
alone, and
merci
I'd
parce
like
qu'ils
to make
travaillent
the most of this
d'arrache-pied
opportunity to
pour faire
thank
en
all
sorte
of
que ce
them
soit possible.
because they really do
Écoutez, ce que
do a fabulous
ce que
job
je
and
souhaite en
help a
faire en
lot.
retour, c'est continuer
But
à faire
what
ce que
I
je
would
fais
like to do when I get
maintenant.
back,
Et ici,
well,
déjà, c'est
continue to do what I'm
partager avec le
doing
plus grand
when I'm
nombre. En
here.
fait,
That is
cette aventure est
reaching out to
tellement
as many people as
extraordinaire dans le sens
possible.
qu'il sort de
I can say
l'ordinaire
that
et
this
donne une perspective
experience has been
différente et puis
so
du coup
extraordinary,
une compréhension
so
de la vie,
different from
des
anything that
écosystèmes
one
de la
can
planète
imagine.
qui est
We
vraiment
can really
particulière.
understand the
Donc
planet's
voilà, continuer
ecosystems
à
in
transmettre tout ça.
a very
Après le
special
retour de ma
manner. So I'd
mission,
like to
j'aurai un
continue
post-flight
working
tour
on
qui
that and
dure
sharing
aux
that.
alentours de 6 mois à
Now,
1 an,
I think when we
dans
get back,
lequel je ferai le tour des
we have
pays
a 6 months,
européens
1
et
year
beaucoup aussi avec l'accent
post-back
bien sûr en
tour,
France et
and I will
j'aurai à
be going
cœur
to European
justement
countries
de
and other
partager
parts
de
of the
vive voix
world, and
cette fois-ci
obviously in
avec
different parts of
ceux
France,
qui
and I'll be able to talk about
veulent
my
entendre
experiences
tous ces messages en
and
fait. Et je pense que c'est
talk
important,
about
c'est comme
what
ça
I've
moi-même que
experienced
j'ai
and
pu
send out these messages.
progresser
I think
dans
that's
ma
important
vie
as
en
well,
recevant
because
l'inspiration
in
avec
my
des
life,
rencontres
I
directes.
have been
Donc
inspired
j'espère
in that
continuer
way
en fait
by meeting
et
people
passer le témoin à mon
who
tour.
had these sort of messages to send across, and I hope I'll be able
Et
to
on
do the
poursuit
same.
avec Quentin Choquet de La
Now,
Provence.
Quentin Choquet from La Provence.
Bonjour Sophie, merci tout
Hi,
d'abord pour ces belles
Sophie.
photos
Thank you
de
for the
Marseille.
wonderful
Vous avez
images
travaillé un
that
an dans
you
notre
sent
région chez
of
Airbus
Marseille.
Hélicoptères à
Now, you
Marignane
worked in
au début de votre
Marignane for
carrière en
Airbus
tant
helicopters
qu'ingénieur.
right at the
Est-ce que les
beginning when you were a
apprentissages dus de
young
cette
engineer.
expérience vous
And do
servent
you
aujourd'hui
feel
dans
that
votre
any of the
mission?
skills you learned during then are helping you in your current role?
Merci, avec plaisir pour les photos de Marseille. Je dois dire
Thank
qu'il y aura
you, and I'm glad
d'autres
you
photos
enjoyed the
des régions de
photographs
France
of
qui
Marseille,
arriveront. J'ai à
and
peu
there
près
will
déjà
be
2
other
terrains donnés de
photographs of other
photodata.
regions.
Donc
I've got several
voilà, elles seront publiées au fur et à mesure.
images,
Et
in
du
fact,
coup, je
hundreds
pense
of
après
them,
mon retour,
and they
quand on
will
aura
be
plus
shared
le temps
with you, obviously,
de tout
while I'm here,
organiser.
and also when I get back, when I
Donc
can
oui, cette
organize
expérience m'a
things
servi.
better.
Ce que je dis souvent,
Yeah,
c'est que
I
pour,
think
dans le métier
what I
d'astronaute, toutes
learned
les expériences, quelles
in
qu'elles soient,
Marignane
servent.
did help, and
Et ce que je
I've
retiens vraiment
often said that
dans
in
les
a life
similarités
of an astronaut, whatever experience
entre
you've had before or learned is useful. And I can say that as an engineer, what I've learned that when you want to actually work on complex issues, you need time. Building a helicopter, for example, is something which is very complicated and complex. You need to have time, you need to be inventive, you sometimes have to really slog hard, you have to have meetings. It may not be really a lot of fun on a daily basis, but everybody's working on the same thing, on the same project, to come up with a helicopter with a machine that can fly. And I think it's the same thing for manned flights. I'm actually building an ISS, flying her to the ISS. None of this is easy. All these tasks may seem on a daily basis to be quite repetitive, cumbersome, difficult, but we need all sorts of input, and all the teams have to have a single goal, and that is to have a laboratory in space in orbit. And therefore, I think that space exploration takes time, space experiments take time. I learned that on a very smaller scale when I was working on helicopters, but I have a wonderful experience and memory of my time at Airbus Helicopters, and I'm delighted that you are here from that part of France. Unfortunately, that's the only time we have today. I'd like to thank all the participants and see you soon.
Thank you, everyone on the ground. Thank you to all of the journalists. You're doing an incredible job, relaying the information to share and the nice words to share with everyone. So I really value all of your work, and I really wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have a good one. Have a good day.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. Merci. That concludes our event.
Copy. Resuming normal communication.
Thank you to all participants. The station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.